Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight with your award-winning host, Dale Davidson. Dale interviews fascinating guests from top-ranked celebrities to people just like you who have an important story to tell. For more than 15 years, Dale is broadcast every week from the fabulous Las Vegas Strip. He finds the people who really make Las Vegas a one-of-a-kind city and lets the world know just what's happening in this remarkable town. You'll discover why 50 million people visit the entertainment capital of the world every year. Stay tuned for another exciting episode of Las Vegas Tonight.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. We have a very, very, very special guest today. We're so pleased to have Annie Lobert of Hookers for Jesus. Annie probably doesn't remember this because she has a much more full life than mine. But you were my very first guest in 2007. And now, that was episode 1, and now we are on episode 429.
Oh my gosh.
And 429 episodes.
Have we gotten older or not?
No, not at all. You haven't. You look magnificent.
Well, 20 pounds later.
Yeah.
And I'm married now, so
yeah, that's a good thing. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much.
That all happened since that very first time.
Yeah.
Let's start with the happy ending and then work our way backwards. Tell me the Oz Fox love story.
Yeah,
how'd you guys meet?
It's so crazy because you know how our smartphones are so important nowadays.
Sure. And
back then, the smartphones were not so smart. I think the first phone, it was a Google phone.
Oh, okay.
And you could flip it down and you could actually look on the internet. It was the first phone you could search really like high-tech internet Google. Mm-hmm. So when I met Oz, we were both on MySpace.
Oh, I remember MySpace.
And both of us were on our computers.
Yeah.
MySpace was a media site that was a lot like Facebook, but with Instagram kind of mixed into it.
Right.
If anyone doesn't know what that is, just look it up, right?
Yes.
And
a lot of musicians,
of course,
people like that on there.
And I love that. And so Oz was on there. I did not know who he was, and I had this profile because in 2005, I publicly started speaking about my story. I'm formerly trafficked in Las Vegas, call girl. Right. I had a trafficker for 2 different traffickers for 10 years. But I was on there because I wanted to share my story.
Yes.
And I posted it, and it was pretty radical. I mean, ex-call girl, working Las Vegas, now helping women get out of the sex industry. Right. So I wrote my story, put it on there, and then probably maybe a couple months into it, my friend Heather said, hey, I'm meeting with my friend Kevin Max from DC Talk.
Oh, okay, sure.
And he and Oz were going to be meeting at dinner, and she was going to go, and she was one of my best friends, and she was an ex-stripper. So we had a lot in common, and she looked like a beautiful little Barbie doll, Cupid doll, gorgeous girl. And so she went to dinner, and I'll never forget, she called me up probably about, like, right after she got home, literally the half an hour after she got home, she goes, Annie, I found your husband. And I was like, are you kidding me, girl? Come on. She's like, no, I met him at dinner. His name's Oz. He's really cool. He's in this band called Striper. And I swear, when you meet him, you guys are going to get married.
Wow. She knew something.
She did.
Yeah.
Or the Holy Spirit told her.
Yes.
Because she's like, I don't even know why I'm saying this. So Oz and I got acquainted on MySpace. Back then, you had something called Top Friends. And Oz saw my profile on her profile, and I was one of her top friends, and there was only 4. And so he clicked on my picture, and then he read my story, and then he inboxed me, hey, I met Heather the other night, and you know, I can't really remember what he said, but he did mention that your story kind of reminds me of Striper and how we go into the clubs and we talk to people that aren't normally churched.
Yes.
And he was like, I relate a lot to what you're doing, because Heather and I were going into the strip clubs. We were going in, and this was the really fun part, Dale. We were going into all the nightclubs in Las Vegas. Yeah. And we had these little cards. We would literally sit there at those drink tables where it was like $1,000 to sit down, $5,000 to get a corner in the table.
It's crazy.
And we would have these men, and I know this sounds unethical, but we would have these men invite us to their tables, and they thought they were going to have a good time.
Right.
And we would sit there and look at them and smile, and they would say, so what are you girls doing? We'd pull out our cards and say, well, actually, we're here to witness that Jesus loves you. And I'm telling you, it was so hilarious. Like, some guys got like kind of lit up mad, and some were like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And so I think that's why Oz might have been, you know, a little bit fascinated with my story, because we were kind of doing the same thing as Striper, just in a different way. We weren't playing music, but I started doing outreach on the Strip in 2005. So Heather was part of that.
That's when you and I met.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah,
and then Oz and I started dating. You know, it was funny because we met in person, and he started taking pictures of me. He was like, "Can I get a picture with you?" And we didn't start dating until probably about 9 months after we first met.
Oh, really?
And then we got engaged in November of 2009.
You got married right away.
We got married in June.
Wow.
June 5th.
Wow.
Oh, sorry. No, it was 2008 we got engaged.
Okay.
And then we got married. No, I'm sorry. I'm messing it up now. It was Valentine's Day we got engaged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I got married on Valentine's Day.
He asked me what kind of diamond I wanted in November. That's what it was. And he told his family and did not tell me that he was going to marry me. But he let his family know, his kids.
Okay.
And then we got engaged on February 14th, and then we got married June 2009,
Oh,
June
that's
5th.
a sweet story.
Yeah. So here we are, and we're
Yeah.
still married. It's
Very
13
nice.
years now.
That's wonderful. I think you told me once that your mom really loves Oz. Tell me why that is.
Yeah, my mom is like, it's so funny because her and my husband have a lot in common because they love music.
Yeah.
And she likes really old music, and she loves him, I think, not just because of that, but also because he loves me. I think that is the biggest impact on her heart, is to see the way that he treats me when we're together and we're talking over the phone, because we can't be together all the time, obviously, because she
Sure.
lives in Wisconsin. But the way that he respects me and honors me and treats me like a lady, I think it really makes her very happy, because she knows my past and how many men that I went through in my life
Yes.
that were very abusive, gaslighting, coercive, you know,
Yes, I
and
know.
obviously two of the men that I was with for a very long time, 5 years each, were traffickers.
Yeah.
So she appreciates him more than I think he even realizes.
That's a nice
Yeah.
story. Now, you grew up in Minneapolis, is
I
that
grew up in
right?
Minneapolis,
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Talk to us a little bit about your childhood. What was it like? Tell us about your family.
So I had like a typical 70s childhood. It was great. I mean, besides the fact that my dad was really angry a lot, and he was very strong in the disciplinary section, like he was formerly from the military.
Oh, yeah.
So the Air Force taught him a lot of things, and then my grandfather and then my grandfather before that were all in the military. So my family had this type of like hardline discipline carrying down from generation to generation. And my dad, unfortunately, was an alcoholic, and he quit drinking when I was very little. So what I remember of my childhood with my father is he's always mad, coming home from work angry. He had to take tranquilizers to settle himself down.
Right.
He would hit my mom in front of his kids sometimes. I mean, not on a regular basis, and I'm not trying to downplay it, but there was definitely domestic violence in our family. And
Yeah.
as a little girl and as little children, you never realize what that actually is. And so trauma happens very early when you're witnessing and experiencing abuse in your family.
Yeah.
So your brain gets all messed up. And so when I started getting older and going to school, I was attracted to boys that were looking at me, because I honestly feel deep inside my heart, I didn't get that from my father, like that special soft attention, letting him know he was proud of me and that I was a beautiful little girl and I was smart and intelligent and everything else like that. And so I gravitated towards these boys. And then, of course, when I was in high school, I got date raped and raped many times after parties, and I got really embittered towards any man. And so for me to leave high school at 18, and I did graduate, I went to Minneapolis because we were living in Wisconsin at the time. I kind of had an attitude towards men, like I'm going to get even somehow, and I'm going to make money, I'm going to become a career woman, I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to show everyone that they are like, I'm above them.
Sure.
Because no one's going to ever treat me bad again. No one's going to rape me
yeah.
again, anything else like that. But of course that didn't happen. I ended up getting 3 jobs, and I started going out to the nightclubs, and I had a fake ID, and back then the drinking age had just turned 21. Me and my girlfriend went to this nightclub, and it's actually a strip club now called Choices in downtown Minneapolis.
Okay.
We went there, and it was called Marsh's at the time, and the owner, we knew him. He just let us in because we're pretty. And we attract customers, you know. People want to drink. Oh, get the girls around to drinks. These 2 men came in, fur coats, sunglasses. We probably should have known they were pimps. We did not know. And my girlfriend starts talking to one of the guys. The other guy wasn't very attractive. She ends up dating him and flying to Hawaii for a couple weeks. And then she calls me up and said, girl, I got this huge ring. And it's diamond, and I'm super excited, and we're going to get married, and I want you to come to Hawaii.
Wow.
Well, I was like, wow, seriously? I mean, you just met this guy.
Yeah.
She's like, but he's got money. And then I was like, girl, get his money. You know, I'm thinking about Madonna. I mean, you got to think about the 80s back then. She was singing about, because we're living in a material world.
Right.
And all I could see was Marilyn Monroe, you know, How to Marry a Millionaire movie, because I did see that movie many times growing up. Beautiful movie, the color and all the diamonds and the pink that she wore. And Madonna copying her song.
Sure.
And then her saying, you know, we're living in a material world, and I'm a material girl. And I was thinking, that's what I'm going to be.
And that's a way of getting back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so I went to Hawaii. There was no question.
Yeah. Was she being trafficked at that point?
She was, you know, technically I couldn't say that, but looking back now, her boyfriend, that guy that we met together, was a trafficker. He was a very well-known trafficker in different cities: Baltimore, Las Vegas, Minneapolis, Chicago, Los Angeles, Hawaii, Waikiki. Yeah. And when I got there were no pimps trying to get at me. I mean, to me, it was like I knew that I wasn't going to, like, they call it choosing up in the game. I knew I was against anything. I thought to myself, I'm going to make all my money independently. But I also didn't know what she was doing exactly, because she said, look, all we have to do is run into the room and then run out. You just take your clothes off really quick, get the money, and then turn around and walk out. So I was like, oh, that sounds easy. These guys are dumb. They're Japanese, you know, and I mean, that's what you think, right? Because they can't speak English. And so we learned Japanese, and they were like, well, we'll get over on them because they can't really speak English. We'll just charge them. And so we ended up I turned my first date, that's what it's called, a trick. And once I got that money in my hand, Dale, and let me tell you something, I did not touch the man. I didn't touch him.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, right? And he was happy. He didn't mind. And so I thought, this is such an easy job. Like, who wouldn't do this for a living? These men are suckers. I mean, this is what I was thinking in my mind. And I was like, oh, I got my ticket, you know? She's got a ticket to ride. I mean, there I was in Hawaii, just tripping out on the beach, getting my money every night, and going shopping, buying a Chanel purse, buying things I never had before in my life, and then flying back to Minnesota after the 2-week vacation and quitting all 3 of my jobs and started working the escort services in Minnesota. And if anyone doesn't know what that is a place where you call a number and you say, I want the girl that is in that picture, and then they'll bring that girl to you in 20 minutes. She'll drive to your hotel. And they had that in Minnesota, and they still have that service in Minnesota. And they have it here in Las Vegas
everywhere.
too.
Yeah.
You see the guys passing out the cards on the strip. You see the big giant banners with the big trucks that say
direct to your room.
Direct to you in 20 minutes. Well, I was the type of person, no, it didn't take me 20 minutes. I'll get to you in 10. I'll beat the other girl there. In fact, sometimes there were girls knocking on the door because sometimes the men would call more than one escort agency.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I started doing in Minnesota, but I got really scared. A guy tried to stab me, and a guy pulled a shotgun on me in Edina, Minnesota, close by where Prince lived.
I know where that is.
Yeah. And I was hanging around with Prince's people too. By the way, I was actually very friendly with one of his actual music director back in the day. I wanted to do music.
That your pre-Purple days?
Yes. And I love Purple.
I know that.
So I ended up working at the strip clubs in Minneapolis. And right now the strip club that I started at it's called Spearmint Rhino now, but it was called the Skyway Lounge. And I was working there probably about 6 months into it, and I stopped escorting for a little while because I got really, really scared of a man trying to murder me, right? Because that can happen to a lot of girls that are call girls.
I know.
And so
It's frightening.
This guy walks in and he was super handsome, and I was totally about looks and about money. He had money, he had a nice car, and he was good looking. And I started dating him, and that became my trafficker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get back to your story in just a minute. We need to take a brief break, and I certainly want to cover in this upcoming segment your conversion experience and how you came to Christ. We'll be back with Annie Lobert right after this.
Hi, I'm Dale Davidson, host of Las Vegas Tonight. You know, radio has an enduring place in the heart of America. Sometimes it's music that can enliven your spirit or keep you company when you need some. More often for me, it's just been the right spoken word or two that can quiet my mind and soul. Radio brings me a reassuring word in the quiet of night or a welcoming voice early in the morning as I shake off the night's sleep and find my way into God's purpose for my day. And always, I find the best radio station is the one that brings me the best news, the gospel of Jesus Christ. My favorite radio station is KKVV in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's still right where it's been for years, at 1060 on the AM dial, hovering over Sin City like a gospel airship, broadcasting the good news of the abounding love that Jesus Christ has for every single one of us. No matter who you are or where you live, you can receive God's Word via the KKVV Gospel Airship. Just go to kkvv.com and click on Listen Live. KKVV is using all the tools that God's provided them, like podcasting and video streaming and video on demand, to produce programs that lift up our fellow believers and save the lost. If you feel a calling to speak to others about Jesus Christ on your very own show, pick up the phone and call the station. They'll be happy to tell you how. Call KKVV today at 702-731-5588 or drop them an email at kkvvradio@hotmail.com. Please join me in becoming part of the KKVV family. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. As I mentioned, coming into the show, we have a very special guest, Annie Lobert, who's been here, we decided, 36 years. You were a kid when you got here.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure.
What did you think of the bright lights of Vegas when you got here?
Vegas is the best,
Yeah.
okay? I still, we were on the Strip last night, my husband and I, and it still makes me really, like, it pitter-patters my heart.
It does, doesn't it?
Does it do that to you too?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, that means we're supposed to be here, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so it never stopped.
yeah.
Like, literally,
Yeah.
to see the beautiful lights. Now, when I first got here, the Mirage stilts were in the ground,
Yeah.
okay? They were doing
That was
construction.
the really first big destination resort.
Right. And we had the dunes,
Yeah.
we had the sands, and the
yeah.
Aladdin, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Stardust, I mean, the Landmark Hotel,
Sure.
you know, Barbary Coast, right?
They
all
were
these
all there.
hotels, these iconic, the Hacienda,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and the Excalibur wasn't there. New York wasn't there. The Tropicana in all its glory was sitting there. And then, if you remember, because you might not remember this, Dale, but before the MGM Grand was the MGM Grand, it was called the Marina.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard that. I never saw it.
And they
I got
had,
here
it was like a
after.
white and blue hotel.
Yeah.
What they did when they tore down the Marina, they kept the guts of the hotel. And they built the MGM Grand around it, the core of the hotel.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I saw Vegas in its glory of the 60s and 70s, maybe not the 50s when, you know, Bugsy Siegel was doing his thing in the 40s,
Yeah.
but I got to see Vegas from the 70s, 80s mafia type of scene, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And I actually, it kind of hurts my heart. I went to the Boneyard probably this past year, and I went
the
twice
Neon
actually.
Museum.
Beautiful place for those old signs, and it kind of made me sad. a little bit to look at those signs and realize, oh wow, they're not here anymore. The Mint Hotel, remember? Remember the Mint Hotel downtown? Yeah. Remember when Fremont Street wasn't Fremont Street?
Yes, that's
It was Fremont Street without that nice...
No canopy.
Right, and you could just park on the street. I want to get out the Horseshoe and gamble. I want to go to Western Union and send some money, just boom, park right there. So yeah, Vegas was very enticing. And I can't imagine what young, like a teenager like I was, what that feels like for our teenagers today that come here. And especially women like me, coming from a small little town, or just a town that doesn't have this glamour and this beautiful 24/7 atmosphere of stars and gambling and drinking and shows and things like that, that these young kids come here and they're like, wow. Like I literally, when I got off that plane, I almost fell out of the chair. Like I couldn't believe, like every single hotel. Now I'll never forget what happened. I was driving down Paradise and we were getting ready to go to Caesar's Palace. Yes. And I saw the Las Vegas Hilton. And now it's called
the West Gate.
The West Gate.
Right. And it had been the International, then the Hilton.
Right. It was first the International because Elvis had a 10-year contract, right? Right, yeah. So I knew that too, by the way, because my mom was like, Elvis used to play at the Hilton. I'm like, okay, Mom, chill out, And I was driving by there and there was this huge like rainbow, right, when you pull up. Yeah. And do you remember this? This gigantic pot of gold.
Oh, that's right.
And the gold had all these reflective like pieces on top of it. Yeah. And there was lights in it, so when you drove by, it would glitter. Yes. And I told my girlfriend, stop right now. So we pulled in there, okay? And I was like, get out the car, let's take a picture. So I'm like literally in my coat and it's like cold out and I'm taking pictures in front of the rainbow and the pot of gold thinking, I'm gonna hit it rich. I'm gonna hit it rich. Yeah. That's what I was thinking, like, there's no way I'm not gonna hit it rich here. Yeah. People have money here. So that's what I was thinking. And you know what? I was absolutely right. Now, I believe, even though I went to church growing up, that I still had a prophetic gift as a young girl. Really? I knew when I heard and saw danger. I also knew when I could tell something that was about to happen to me that was going to be really good for me. Like the money factor. I knew that if I moved to Las Vegas, that I would make all kinds of money. I knew it. Just my gut. I was like, there's something about this place. I'm gonna hit it like big here. Minnesota money, Hawaii money, nothing like Las Vegas money. Yeah. Sure enough, when I ended up coming here, by the way, I invited my boyfriend. He was my boyfriend at the time. But see, I want to define what sex trafficking is. It's the force, fraud, and coercion of a person that are being sold against their will. Okay? And this could even mean human trafficking. So anytime that you're being sold against your will and you're being forced to do it, even if it's through trickery, and coercion is trickery and manipulation. Right. And, it's kind of like some of the things that happen today, even in government, where you're being forced to do certain things. I don't need to say what that is, do I, Dale?
No.
That's called coercion. Yeah. Where you have no choice because you will lose your job, you will lose where you're living, you will not be able to see your family. This is exactly what trafficking does to you, okay? Trafficking is real and it happens in our own backyard. So I brought my trafficker here and I remember working and signing up at the escort services, and they had so many. They had Star Entertainment, Foxy Ladies, Desert Foxes. They had Flashdance, because of course it was the 80s. They had to do something kind of like iconic towards one of the 80 movies. And I worked for this one agency that was the main agency in town called it was called Strippers Elite. And so the agency would send us out on calls on the strip. Right. And we would go directly to the room, and each person that was calling, the buyers, would pay $125 an hour to $250 an hour, depending on what they're looking for. Each ad was different, so sometimes I would go on calls that were $125, and then I knew the guy was a cheapie. Like, I couldn't get a lot of tip out of him. And then the higher, like, stage calls were like $250. And so when I walked in the room, that money is not yours, by the way, Dale. You don't get that money. No. That money is a strippogram, that's it. Right. Anything else is against the law. In Las Vegas, prostitution is absolutely illegal. Right. So you go and you get your agency fee. You call your phone girl on the phone and say, hey, I'm checking in. And she says 5 minutes or 20. And if it's a good call, you say 20. That means you got a good tip above the agency fee. If it's a bad call, you say, call me in 5. That means this guy has barely anything to keep you there. And so I would, right off the bat, if the guy didn't have any money, I would say, I need $500 right up front for my tip to start. Well, what do you get for that? Well, you'll see when I give it to you. So I would walk in rooms. Sometimes guys would have on like crocodile shoes or a Rolex watch or a special type of designer glasses on, or I would see gambling chips on the table, or I would go into, let's say, Caesar's Palace or Bally's or Flamingo Hilton in a nice suite somewhere, and I knew that they had money, so I would, right off the bat, I would walk in the room and say, it starts at $2,000 above the agency fee and goes up from there. So I would just do my my spiel, just like a car salesman, right? And I would sell myself and be able to get a lot of money. So basically every night I went on approximately about 10 calls average, real busy night about 15 during like fight nights. And I would take home usually between $3,000 to $6,000 a night in my tips. That was average. On a bad night, it was about $2,000 in tips. But the agency itself got about $2,000 from me a night. So add that up with that other money.
So yeah, so that their take was the 125 and
or 250 per call. Yeah. So I would literally come to the agency and drop like 10 drops at a time, sometimes 5. They trusted me. I never stole from them. I never rolled a client. Rolling a client is simply this: is you go in there, you drop a Mickey in their drink, Visine, and you make them pass out. You steal their money or you steal their Rolex. I never did that.
Yeah.
So I was an honest call girl.
Yeah. Let's talk about why you converted to Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well, you know, working in the sex industry is always very enticing in the beginning. It's literally like a slippery slope, though, because once you start working in the industry, and also remember this, I had a boyfriend that became my pimp. When he came down here with me, the first night that I worked, it's called breaking. Grooming is the romantic part where you're bringing the person into the relationship. You're getting their trust. You're making them feel comfortable. You're buying them gifts. You're giving them attention. You're showering them with affection and love and compliments. And then when you end up getting trafficked, it's called breaking. And so the first night that I worked, I got a really good call at the Golden Nugget. And I came into the room and my ex-pimp, my ex-trafficker said, break yourself. And I was like, I'm not giving you a dime. This is my money. You're not getting a dime from me. So then he took me in the back and proceeded to beat me down where I was unrecognizable. And that type of beating with both different pimps. And the second pimp, he locked me in the house and with locks on the doors and we got like bars installed in the house and the windows and the doors. He had the keys and I didn't, so he would lock me in there when he wanted me to stay with him, and then he would unlock it for me to go to work. So I was basically I have nightmares from that relationship, actually. He used to tell me, I'm gonna start this place on fire and we're both gonna die. And then I would just be like, oh my God. But that
and you
whole time,
have PTSD from this, don't you?
I had complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and I still am working through the salvation with fear and trembling with that, because it's a lifelong journey of healing from that. And because my trauma started as a little girl, so it just continued into my life. But complex trauma is something where you have comorbidities, and that is more than just PTSD. You have nervous disorders, anxiety disorders, eating problems, and all kinds of like things that happen with PTSD that can develop from the abuse.
Wow.
And so the reason why I remember Jesus, because I never forgot him. When I was very little, I went to Sunday school and I accepted him to my heart. And he was always like my best friend, like when I was growing up. And I got really close to him when I was 8 years old because I was being abused by someone in our neighborhood, sexually abused. And so I kind of got closer to Jesus, but I really veered off away from him when I was a teenager because I got abused at those parties, but those boys abused me. And so I had this really bad like experience of really trusting God and not really believing that God was my father. I was 10 years trafficked in Las Vegas with 2 different traffickers. And let me tell you that when you're with a trafficker, they get every single dollar that you make. So I made millions of dollars. I don't even know how much, actually. I don't even know how to calculate. I've done a couple calculations, that I had to see walk through my fingers and never get to reap the benefits of the money. You know, I had cars, I had jewelry, clothing, nice houses, but when it's not in your name, and when you leave your pimp, you leave with nothing. If you take your jewelry or your clothing, like, they'll chase you and hunt you down. I got kidnapped by my pimp and put in a trunk and tied up and got all my hair cut off. In fact, it's in my book, the whole story.
Yeah, let me hold
Some
that
people
up.
get mad at me when they read this because they're like, Annie, I can't believe you did that. But this reads like a movie.
Yeah.
So we can't all talk about it today, but the ending for my good story is in there.
Oh, good.
And I'll cut to the chase now.
Yeah.
There was a night on August 2nd, 2003 that I overdosed on cocaine. And I cried out to Jesus. And I literally had been praying to Jesus almost, Dale, this, like, off and on this whole time.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Like,
you still had him in your heart.
Yes. And I remember crying out to him, and I had read the New Testament for the very first time when I was in Italy, because my trafficker came there with me to Italy. And I started crying because I realized that Jesus loved me. Like, I was like, he loves me. And then I have to go back to Las Vegas and I have to sell myself more. And I remember saying a prayer like, God, just get me out of this. Get me out of this business. I don't know what to do. I don't know what kind of job I can work. I mean, I know I'm smart, but I don't know what else I can do with my life. And then I was, you know, back then I was in my 20s still, but I was on the edge of getting very sick with cancer. And so when I cried out to Jesus, it was August 2nd, 2003, and I overdosed, and I just asked him to just take me away from where I was, and I promised him if he saved my life that I would dedicate my life to his life for the rest of my life. And that's what I did.
And you've done it.
And I have never turned back. Like, I've never, that promise I made to God that day, because Dale, when you're dying and when you're having a heart attack, you just know. If anyone's ever had a heart attack before, it's very painful and you can't breathe very well. I went blind actually for a short time.
Really?
I blacked out, but I was still coherent.
Wow.
I could hear all the sounds around me. I heard the siren coming. Now, sometimes in heart attacks, that's what happens to people. They'll lose their sight for a little while. And I had a near-death experience as well. I saw my life flash before my eyes.
We need to take a brief break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about the solution, who is Jesus. We'll be back with Annie Lobert right after this.
I learned that hope's everything. Like, when you're pushed in every way to the end of your rope and you discover you're really alone in this world, really you are, without hope, everything goes. So it was Friday the 30th of September, and I was sitting at my computer, and this pain out of nowhere just turned on in my neck. Pretty soon I discovered that at 25 I was going to have open heart surgery. I put my iPod in, I cranked it to 100%, and all I do is focus on my breathing. After about 15 minutes, my eyes are closed. These thoughts, you're not going to make it, you're going to die, give up, it's over. I was so weak and I was under attack. Start praying. And that's when everything turned around. This hope came back 100 times stronger, and I had this rock solid titanium promise from God, for God's sake. You're getting out of this. Like, there was not a shred of doubt. Like, I've never been so certain of anything in my life. Cut a long story short, within 4 days I was out of intensive care. My oxygen levels were 100%. I wasn't on a breathing mask. I was walking without a frame. Within 5-6 days I was out of the hospital. And I can literally trace it to that Wednesday when in my heart and my spirit something turned around, and then my body very quickly followed. When I lost my own hope, when I lost hope in everything else, the doctors, medicine, my body, the only thing that brought me back was my faith in God. So the faith then led to the hope, and once the hope came back, like I said, you can have hope in God, you can have faith in God, because He's God, man. He's a good God.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. We have a fantastic guest. Annie Lobert is with us, and the name of her ministry is Hookers for Jesus. She's been at it for at least 15 years. We have that in common. We haven't given up. We're still trying as hard as it gets sometimes.
Of course.
How's book sales on Fallon or Fallen? Fallon was your hooker name.
That was my name when I was working, and that story is still being written. I mean, I'm doing part 2, but
are you?
That's a very educational book on how to recognize trafficking, but also how it can happen to a small town girl. Just any type of, it could be a boy too. Anyone is vulnerable, not just specifically certain populations, because of course marginalized populations are very vulnerable. But so are normal people too. People that aren't marginalized. Trafficking's everywhere in our country.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's in every country. It started happening. We talk about it in the Bible. I mean, look at Rahab.
Sure.
Some people say, well, you don't know if she was trafficked. Well, tell me why she was afraid of that king when he knocked on her door.
Oh, of course.
And why she had to lie to him about where those spies were.
Right.
Because she knew if she didn't, if she told the king where they were, right? I mean, she knew that was going to be her death, because those walls were going to come down.
Right.
And she was very happy to, tell the soldiers, hey, I want my family to be saved because I believe in the God that you follow. And I heard some crazy stories, I'm paraphrasing, of course, about your God. And your God is powerful, and I want to know your God.
That's a great story.
Which it's so crazy, because Rahab is related to Jesus. And you have to remember that people could hear my story, Dale, and they could look at me right now, oh, look at her makeup and her fancy pink and everything else like that, and her rings on. She's still materialistic. No, this is just who I am. I love color, but I also like to be myself. When we are following Jesus, we get the beautiful, beautiful experience of actually becoming who we really are. And I'm fancy. So I'm a fancy girl. I mean, and I love anything that has challenge or anything that helps justice happen. I've always been like that since I've been very little. Like, I used to see my dad abuse my mom, and I thought to myself, I'll never be with a man like that. But then look what happened to me. Because our brain, when it's full of trauma, we tend to pick what's safe. Even though that person's never hit us first, but that person might have the same type of personality characteristics. We're drawn to them, and they're an abuser. Like, you never realize what trauma can actually do to the brain. So the Jesus piece is really what got me. After I cried out to Jesus, I had a Gideon Bible that I got given to me when I was 18, so I kept that. But I went out and got a brand new Bible, an Amplified Bible. I was watching late night television. I couldn't sleep because I had been up all night getting high. So Joyce Meyer comes on the television.
Power of TV.
And she starts like yelling at me. I felt like she was yelling right at me, and I tell her this to her face. Like, you were yelling at me. She's like, yeah, I hear that a lot. And I'm like, yeah, and it really spoke to my heart. Like, she was like, you know God loves you no matter what you've done. And I was like, no way.
That's what you felt, you were too dirty. I felt
that intensely when I read the New Testament for the first time when I was in Italy. But this like clicked everything together. And then the way that she taught the gospel was easy to understand. And it made me believe that God was actually my father. So when people put her down, and I'm going to say this, when they put her down for being, Christian light, or, oh, she's seeker friendly. No, she's not. Let me tell you, she'll keep it straight with you. But she tells the straight gospel, the straight truth, right to your heart. And that's something I could receive. And frankly, girls like me and ladies that have been from the sex industry, personally, I'd rather have you shoot the truth straight to me instead of making it all fluffy and pretty and dressed up in a bow and unwrap that. I just want you to tell me exactly what's going on. Don't lie to me. Show me the facts, and I'll be good with it. And so that was the way she preached, and she does it to this day. she's sassy and I love it.
Oh, I have great admiration for her, and she has helped millions of people.
Yeah, she's helped us. And so, and then I was like, you know what? I have to do something with this love I feel. I feel like I'm overflowing in love and I don't know what to do with it, and I need to help somebody. I need to help these women. So I started going onto the Strip by myself at first, which was really dumb.
I remember this. Yeah.
And reaching out to the ladies that were being trafficked on the Strip and sitting at the bar, passing out my card. I had these little bags. I would put these cute little colored Bibles in them, and then I would put like a candle or, you know, perfume or makeup, of course, nail polish. I would put, you know, lotion in there, whatever, to make them feel loved and make them feel happy or, you know, important. And so I was bringing girls to church because they would call me and say, hey, where are you at? You know, can you meet me for coffee? I really want to consider what you told me when I met you, that I'd like to get away from my pimp. And I'm like, you can do it. Well, let's meet. And so I started taking ladies' calls and bringing them to my house, which was really unethical. Letting them sleep on my couch, helping them get away, teaching them how to live a new life. And pretty much that is what started Destiny House, which is what we do now.
Yeah. So you have a house.
We have 2 houses now.
2 houses, yeah.
Well, there's 3. There's 2 on one property, but yeah.
Okay.
Actually, there's 3 on one property and another on a separate property, but
okay.
We have a home that is for
women. You were
women.
on Bravo, right?
Yeah. You know, we were on, I don't know what I've been on. I've been on so many different TV things. We were on Discovery ID.
Oh, okay.
We were also on a special for 3 different episodes, an hour each, about Destiny House. But that was the first location. The location is no longer valid. We have a better location. It's bigger. It's more secluded, and ladies can come there for a year or 2 years. And once they graduate that program, they go into our next program. The first one's called Destiny House. The second one is Dream House, and that's our program for transitional living, more independent, and it's not as much structure. And so ladies go into in their college or working their jobs, and they get their car and they kind of like learn how to live their life on their own now. Because getting right out of Destiny House, we found that a lot of the ladies would really struggle with reintegrating themselves into society without contacting their old friends, and then sometimes they would go back. And so the normal rate, according to Melissa Farley, of someone that's been trafficked that goes back to being trafficked, prostituted, is 5 to 7 times. We're finding with faith, the faith piece, adding the Jesus mixture, right? Getting the ladies that full 100%, you know, humanitarian care, the soul, mind, body, will, and emotions healed. That with Jesus, I think it's like cut in half, if not 75%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So
and
you're
even
seeing
higher.
Success.
Very good success.
Yeah, and the government's recognized it in the sense that I know you got a couple of grants from
we did. We
the
got
Trump administration.
We did, and Trump has done a great job when he was working as president with the administration of getting grants to organizations like ours that really needed the money. Yeah. And so we hope that continues in this administration. And so, but always, you know, we're a nonprofit. We're a 501(c)(3). I've been doing this since 2005, and we're getting ready to celebrate our official 15-year anniversary this year. Unofficially 17 years.
Yeah.
But I'm super proud of our team. We have, I think, 18 employees right now.
Wow. And
we're doing work that is very difficult to do. It's work that is boots on the ground. It's direct service. It's rescue, restoration. It's everything involved, like getting someone out, bringing them to the house, helping them reintegrate their lives, getting their court cases, taken care of, getting their credit fixed. All that. We use a really great service called Legal Aid in town, and they do great work with the girls.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure they need it.
And then, of course, Dale, I have a show that I do that I got asked to do a couple years ago.
Called The Pink Chair.
Yeah, it's called Pink Chair, but it's Annie's Pink Chair. Yeah. And hence, I love pink. Everybody, you guys aren't dumb. I mean, it's pretty obvious. And the reason why for that show is because I was speaking at a gig at a human trafficking event, And one of the people that owned the CTN studios walked up to me and said, I really feel that God's telling me that you need to have your own talk show. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah, you're great with your words and you're just so animated. And I was like, I prayed about it. My husband and I met with them and we started doing it. And I got pink chairs, you know, velvet pink chairs in the studio. It's been really fun. I know you have a blast doing this.
Oh,
I really love talking to people and getting to know people. Of course, I love talking. Gives you an
excuse to get interesting people in your life.
And when you do this type of work, and you would know this, you have to know how to talk. Like, you have to know how to keep a conversation. You also have to talk a lot yourself.
You do.
I mean, you really do.
That's the way it is.
The questions, they just come up in your head as you're speaking with someone. So, yeah, we started doing that. And, you know, I wanted to tell people that, you know, they can watch it on our Channel 17.
Yeah, CTN Vegas, Channel 17.
Yes.
This show's on at 7:30 on Fridays. And when does yours run?
It runs Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Okay.
So 3 days. But also, this is what's really cool. So there's a show in Tennessee that they air. They air every Thursday. I think it's at 8 o'clock, 8:30 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And then also Pink Chairs aired at the Super Channel in Florida.
Oh, wow.
All of Orlando gets to see it.
Oh, that's
our biggest audience. It's 3.4 million people. So I don't know what's happening, but I think God's doing something.
It's amazing what he does.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I started with, as you know, because you were my first guest, with a little public service show. And, you know, Between Two Ferns, you know, that kind of thing.
I mean, you've done so many shows and all those millions of views. And I'm just so excited that you guys are airing in different countries.
We are, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that. Of course, that's the next level. So.
Yeah, China is the most recent. And we're estimating somewhere around 9 million watch this show every week.
Wow.
And it's uncensored.
That is incredible.
Only God can make that happen.
Totally.
Yeah.
And especially they can't bring the Bible there. I mean, they can have a page, and if they find out they have a page, they get arrested, right?
I know, yeah.
Like they have to memorize the Bible.
Yeah.
That's how they do it over there.
Yeah. God made this possible. It's amazing. Annie, we've got about 3 minutes left. That's your camera. Let me impose upon you. People are watching who don't know Jesus. People are watching who are in the position that you were in years ago. Help them. Tell them about why they should come to Christ.
Yeah, so, you know, it's so simple because our lives are a wisp. Like literally, you could be born and live maybe till you're 15, till you're 20, maybe even 10 years old. You could be like me. I overdosed when I was in my 30s. But I do know this, is that God has created you for a purpose that is so unique and so special that He wants you to fulfill it. And sometimes we come to the very end of ourselves. I tried money. I tried buying things. I tried wearing designer clothes. I tried having hundreds of different relationships with different men. It didn't fill the huge vacuum in my heart. And I don't know about you, but maybe, just maybe you're hopeless right now. Maybe you're lonely, you're full of anxiety, you've got PTSD, maybe you're on drugs, maybe this pandemic has just taken you to another level and you just don't know what to do. But let me tell you something you can do that I did, is I did it many times. It's so simple. All I said was, Jesus, help me. Jesus, please help me. That's how simple it is, you guys. There's no special way to say that prayer, but just help me, Jesus. And let me tell you, He'll come into your heart. And He'll come there and reside. The Holy Spirit will come and live inside of you, and God will change your life from the inside out. It's that simple. You don't have to do a formula. And then guess what? The next step, find someone that also believes. Find a good Bible-believing church and get connected. And you know what? Pick up your Bible. If you don't have one, find a Bible and start reading the Gospel of John. It changed my life, Dale. Changed my life.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. Annie, it's great to see you again.
Yeah,
it's been too long. You have an open invitation.
Yes.
Come again.
Yes, thank you.
God bless
Appreciate it. You too.
Bet.
You too.
Annie Lobert of Hookers for Jesus. You can go to her website and she'll accept some money, I'm guessing.
Yes.
We'll put your information up. And,
thank you so much. We're a nonprofit, yep.
Yeah. Wow. What a great guest. Annie Lobert. And as I try to remember to say each and every episode of Las Vegas Tonight, when it comes to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, please walk with Him. God bless you.
Mama said they're not the kind a young girl should be hanging around. Don't throw your life away on those fools and their foolish games. Baby had her own mind, just couldn't see the hands of time or the hand that fate would deal to a little girl in a world that's real. Baby said I won't let go, and I won't give them up. I won't stop till I've had enough. This is my life, my chance to fly. Baby, learn that Mama was right after lonely days and long cold nights. Baby was a mama now. She saw her child with that same crowd. As Mama left the world behind, her words echoed in baby's mind. Keep your head up high, keep on looking to a brighter sky. Mama said don't let go and don't give up. Don't stop till you've done it right. This is your life, your chance to fly. Mama said don't let go and don't give up. Don't stop till you've done it right. This is your life, your chance to fly. Don't let go and don't give up. Don't stop till you've done it right. This is your life, your chance to fly.
What is the Bible? What does it say? Why do people care about it? And what does it have to do with you? Christians claim the Bible was authored by God through human hands to share His story and help us understand who He is. It's a diverse collection of literature, including historical accounts, poetry, stories, and wisdom. It contains mind-blowing adventures like men being thrown into a fire-filled furnace, yet they weren't burned. It speaks of an old man who was lowered into a lion's den, only to be supernaturally protected and not eaten. It also tells the story of a little girl who had died, yet miraculously came back to life. The Bible is one book that contains 66 smaller books. It was written over a period of 1,500 years and authored by over 40 different people that range from shepherds to doctors, scholars, farmers, and kings. Completed 2,000 years ago, historians say it's one of the most reliable books on the planet. Over 10,000 manuscripts have survived the centuries. Compare that to only 235 known manuscripts of Shakespeare's First Folio. There have been over 5 billion copies printed worldwide, making it the most reproduced book in the world. The Bible is divided into two sections, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament is well known for its early history of the world and insight into life, giving wisdom such as don't murder and love one another. Other sections are a bit racy, such as your breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. The first 4 books in the New Testament tell the story of Jesus through the perspectives of 4 of his closest friends. The rest of the New Testament is stories and letters revealing what Jesus' closest followers did after his time on earth. God used average people to heal all kinds of diseases and drive out demons. Many of Jesus' followers were killed because they dared to preach his message. Jesus claimed to be the human manifestation of God's unfailing love for humanity and the secret for true inner peace. He gave hope to the hopeless, love to the unloved, and then gave his life to bring never-ending life to everyone who would believe in him. That's where you come in. Beware, reading this book will change you. As you read it, its message of hope will come alive in you. That's what it's designed to do. Why not give it a shot and see for yourself what it says? It just might surprise you.
I believe there are problems in this world that remain unfixed. I see plenty of food, but people still starving. I see cancer. I see families falling apart. I see people connected, but still isolated. I see ISIS, and it freaks me out. I see people without hope or purpose. I see that we are all desperate to fit in. I see that everything isn't okay around me and in me. But despite all of this, I have hope because there is a God who cares about us, me, you, who hates injustice, loneliness, and inequality so much that he didn't just leave us in the struggle alone, but entered our struggle with us. As Jesus, he suffered injustice, pain, and laid down his life for us, even though we were the ones who created the problems and we were the ones who deserved the consequences. But he rose again and conquered death in order to restore humanity to his original purpose, one person at a time. So why do I believe this? I've seen hope restored and lives transformed. I've seen fractured relationships healed. I've seen people make it through troubled times because of God's peace. I've seen people forgive atrocities. I've seen God answer prayers. I've seen sickness healed. I've seen broken people find God's love, acceptance, and peace. I have found God's love, acceptance, and peace. I've experienced this transformation for myself, and I believe it can happen for you too.
Morning shine, shine, shine. Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
You've been watching Las Vegas Tonight with your host, Dale Davidson. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of our show. We so appreciate your loyalty to our program. To keep Las Vegas Tonight on the air, please go to our website, vegassaints.org, and click the Donate button. To send a check or money order, please make it out to Dale Wynn Davidson Ministries and mail it to 9030 West Sahara Avenue, Suite 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. To suggest a guest to appear on the show or any other suggestions or questions, write to Dale at dalewdavidson@yahoo.com or call him at 702-480